All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started here. A couple things just to for house cleaning purposes. We're going to need about halfway over there and this aisle here. We're going to need that cleared out because we're going to be having testifiers coming forward, and we're going to need to be able to get through there. So there are a few empty seats still out here. There's a few out. When I was out there in the lobby, the one thing that, we're going to make sure everybody that wants to testify, we're going to get you through here. We just need to be able to kind of move people kind of in and out of here. So we'll get started here. So I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to attend the joint public hearing in regard to the Property Tax Request Act. The purpose of this hearing, which corresponds with the agenda that was handed out, is to have presentations by the political subdivisions seeking to increase their property tax requests by more than the allowable growth percentage, which will then be followed by public comment. We've been trying to get everybody signed in out there at the table. If you haven't signed in yet, please do so. A new requirement this year for reporting purposes is we've got to be able to identify numbers and stuff like that. So if you haven't, please make sure you do that. A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is posted on the wall at the back of the room. Agendas are available if you don't have any. They're floating around out by the table out there. This meeting is being broadcast live on LNK TV, which is the City of Lincoln's government access channel. You can also visit lincoln.ne.gov for the rebroadcast schedule. Meetings are also streamed live on YouTube and Facebook. In addition, LNK TV apps are available on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. That information is also on your agendas. I would just kind of say on the Facebook side, just make sure you're going out to the Lancaster County site. Presentations will be held in the following order tonight, as noted on the agenda: City of Hickman, City of Lincoln, City of Waverly, Lincoln Public Schools, and Southeast Community College. Okay, let's now talk about the public comment. Public comment will actually follow the presentations. Each person will get one opportunity to speak for up to 3 minutes. There are timers up here at the podium. A timer will show green as your time runs. It will turn yellow when you have 1 minute left, and it will turn red when your time is up. As you can see with the numbers that we've got here, kind of moving through here, we'll just kind of keep the process going. When you come forward, please state and spell your name for the record. The public comment portion of the agenda is not a question and answer session. The presenters will listen and take the information back to their governing bodies so that they are aware of the comments. As far as the testifying will go here, we're going to ask that the testifier, along with the next testifier, be up at the podium. You can see we have 2 microphones there, so we'll have one testifier. When you're done there, the one next to you will then be ready to go. We will have 2 individuals then sitting in our nicely reserved 2 front seats up here, and so then we'll just keep flowing forward. So once those seats are vacated, next ones up that are ready to testify slide up, and we'll just kind of keep it moving that way. Like I mentioned, everyone will have the opportunity to do public comment tonight. We're just asking for a little bit of patience as we kind of work everybody through the room, get up here, and kind of get through that. So from there, I'm gonna turn it over to Kelly from the City of Hickman and let the presentations begin. remember my patience comment?
This is where it starts. It's not displaying the one that's on there, so I might need to go grab Bo.
I'll make a run real quick.
Thank you. Is it on the HDMI?
Maybe while we're waiting, you can introduce yourselves and your titles and positions.
My name is Kelly Elke. I'm the city administrator for the city of Hickman. Get closer. My name is Kelly Elke. I'm the city administrator for the city of Hickman.
I'm John Carlson. I'm part of the City of Lincoln team that'll be here tonight, along with the City Finance Director Lynn Heaton and our Budget Officer Sherry Wolf.
Stephanie Fisher, City Administrator, City of Waverly.
Liz Standish, Associate Superintendent for Business Affairs, Lincoln Public Schools. I am joined by Board Member Barbara Byer.
Amy Jorgens, Vice President for Administrative Services for Southeast Community College, and I'm joined by Neil Stinberg, the Chair of the SCC Board, and also Brandon Gunther, SCC Board Member.
Perfect, thanks.
Can you see it?
Okay, Kelly.
Again, I'm Kelly with the city of Hickman, city administrator, and the amount of the property tax request this year is $1,975,951.88. And the total assessed value of property this year differs from last year's total assessed value by 25%. And this increase is mostly due to the addition of newly built properties in Hickman. As many of you are aware, we are one of the fastest growing communities in Nebraska, and we are just building lots of single-family homes, commercial businesses, and that growth continues forward into this next year. The tax rate that would levy the same amount of property tax as last year, when multiplied by the new total assessed value of property, would be 0.480417 per $100 of assessed value. The city of Hickman proposes to adopt a property tax request that will cause its tax rate to be 0.598137 per $100 of assessed value. Based on the proposed property tax request and changes in other revenue, the total operating budget of the city of Hickman will exceed last year's by 46%. And I know that sounds like a large number. The city of Hickman is actually in a project phase right now to double the capacity of their water treatment plant and also to double the capacity of their wastewater treatment plant. And that's about $5.5 million, and funding has already been secured for that as well. So again, we're balancing our relationships together this evening, working for our property tax transparency together. And up on the slide there, we're utilizing all of our property tax revenue in addition to other revenue sources for the water treatment and the wastewater treatment plant upgrades. We're doing infrastructure upgrades, which includes our electrical and street departments, and then we're adding an additional public park and expanding our pedestrian and biking trails in town. As you can see, our levy history over the last several years, in past years, the elected officials have voted to keep it at a 0% change and taking the increase in evaluations for additional revenue sources to fund our municipality's operation and maintenance budget. And if you'd like more information regarding the increase in our property tax request, citizens can contact the city of Hickman at 402-792-2212, or you can email hickman1872@gmail.com.
Well, good evening again. I'm John Carlson. I'm part of the City of Lincoln team that's here tonight, along with our Finance Director, Lynn Heaton, and our Budget Officer, Sherry Wolf. We're here to present on our mid-biennium budget adjustments. Start by going through the state-required information. So the name of our subdivision, City of Lincoln. Dollar amount of proposed tax requests, you can see, is $100,801,928. Total assessed value of property differing from last year's total assessed value by 22.5%. Tax rate, which would levy the same amount of property taxes as last year when multiplied by the new total assessed value of property, would be 0.25544 per $100 of assessed value. City of Lincoln proposes to adopt a property tax request that will cause its tax rate to be 0.29533 per $100 of assessed value. And I would note that's a reduction from the current 0.31293 per $100 of assessed value. Based on the proposed property tax request and changes in other revenue, the total operating budget of the City of Lincoln will exceed last year's budget by 6.84%. And to obtain more information regarding the increase in the property tax request, citizens can contact the City of Lincoln at 402-441-7411, or you can email budgets@lincoln.ne.gov. I'm going to take a couple minutes to talk about what's being funded with the additional revenue that we just talked about. Well, you can see here the vast majority of that additional revenue is being invested in public safety. Nearly 75% is being invested in Lincoln Police and Lincoln Fire and Rescue. I'm going to take a second to go and outline what are some of the major investments that are being funded by that revenue. Lincoln Fire and Rescue is $4.65 million. That includes a proposed new 3-year contract that includes pay raises for those personnel that reflect national trends and our need to continue to retain and attract personnel to provide safety here in Lincoln. It includes 2 fire suppression tanker trucks to provide good response time and good reaction. And it includes a headquarter relocation associated with our Lincoln Fire and Rescue facility improvements. Lincoln Police Department, you can see there, is $3.8 million. And some of the significant things that includes is a new 3-year contract that we just passed that made LPD the highest paid law enforcement in the state. Again, same premise. We want to continue to retain and attract the top quality and skilled employees in order to provide public safety and protection for our community. I would highlight that in the second year of our biennial budget, that's also helping fund 5 new officers and 1 new 911 dispatcher. And I'd also point out that combined, the Lincoln Police and Fire pension, we're adding an additional $580,000. Now, the total investment is over $10 million. But because we do a 2-year budget, the second year is always placeholdered. And we have actuaries that look and see what the market did, who actually retired, and we have to do a settle up in the second year that provides the actual amount necessary for police and fire to be able to have their pension funded. So that's the additional $580,000. That slide total together is $9 million. The second area that we're funding is to promote economic vitality in the community. We have an important urgent need in our parking system. Our entry and exit system, the gates, the ticket takers, the way that it collects the information is failing at 17 years old. We can no longer get software support, and they're no longer manufacturing replacement parts. We have one source that provides parts. When those are gone, they're gone. So we have an urgent need to update that system. Our parking system, our city municipal parking system, is one of the important ways that we support economic development here in Lincoln, Nebraska, both the businesses and the residences that are downtown. And it's also one of the important ways that we support the visitors and the events and the conventions that come to Lincoln that help create economic prosperity here too. Another important project that's being funded is a catalyst project that's listed in the downtown master plan for South Haymarket Park. That's an area that's going to be about 6th and N Street heading south. It's got redevelopment opportunities all along the eastern edge of it. And much like we've seen in the West Haymarket, it provides redevelopment opportunities for business, for headquarters, for new residential that help grow the tax base. The park will also do that. Besides being a recreational amenity, it'll also be a concentration to help do economic development along the perimeter. And that total of economic development is about $2 million. And finally, a couple major components I'll talk about in family and senior services. Our Parks and Recreation Department. We saw last year we had a real struggle in order to open up our aquatics facilities during the summertime. We have families, kids, and other residents that count on those to be open for their summertime recreation. We see it across the country. We see other municipalities that are not able to open their pools, so they open them with drastically reduced hours. We were proactive this year. We investigated the issue, and the fact of the matter is that Lincoln has a tight labor market, and those young adults can go work at Target for $15 an hour. We have to be able to match that labor market in order to get the young adults to be able to staff those pools and those recreational facilities. We were able to get them fully open and operational all summer long. When those 100-degree days hit, families are counting on that to be able to have that opportunity. Second thing I want to point out is Victory Park funding. That's our new campus out by the VA on 70th Street, just south of O Street. We moved our aging services out to that VA campus. That's been a big success. We're seeing increase in services and increase in programming. Our attendance and our facility uses is up significantly at that campus. If you haven't had a chance to drive out there and go by it, take a look. We're really increasing the services that we're providing for seniors out there. We have a gap there because the downtown building, when we did our construction funding budget, we had a certain amount that we thought we'd be able to sell that building for. We had that building up for sale for several months, and it did not sell for what we were trying to sell it for. So that leaves a gap in our construction budget. The city and the county are jointly funding that, and the city portion of that's about $500,000 to make sure that that campus is built, constructed, and funded. And the last thing I'll talk about on this slide is we have to replace a reduction in state and federal funding. We had federal funding that got clawed back. Our federal funding that goes to StarTran, which is about 80% of our funding, it flows through the state. The state has a formula for how much Lincoln and Omaha get and how much the small towns get. And as part of the Budget Reduction Act in Congress, they clawed back some of that money. And the state has a formula that determines who gets the money when it flows through. Then the formula prioritized the small towns and villages, which means that we ended up short in our StarTran funding. So we need to use other local funding in order to make sure that we can run those buses for the hours of operation, people that use them to get to work, to get to school, to get to doctor's appointments and other things they need to get to. So that's a combined investment of about $1.17 million. Overall, we're happy in Lincoln that we have a strong economy. It continues to spin off important revenue that we're able to use in the community investments that we hear from people. We understand the impacts of value increases on property owners. It's always a balancing act when we try and decide how to do our budget. The total revenue available due to the reevaluation was approximately $18 million. We lowered the tax rate to forego about $6 million of that. And we took $12 million to do the investments that I just outlined, 75% of which are in public safety. So we believe this is a balanced approach. We listen to our constituents. We understand people want cuts. We understand people want investments. And this is the balanced package that we ended up with in order to continue to keep our community safe, to grow our economy, and provided those needed services for families and for seniors. Thank you.
I'm Stephanie Fisher. I'm here from the City of Waverly, the City Administrator. Our 2023-24 property tax request is $1,719,678.52. Our 22 assessed valuation was $417,697,396, and the 2023 assessed valuation is $503,926,171. The total assessed value of property differs from last year's total assessed value by 21%. The tax rate, which would levy the same amount of property taxes as last year, when multiplied by the new total assessed value of property, would be 0.282871 per $100 of assessed value. The City of Waverly proposes to adopt a property tax request that will cause its tax rate to be 0.341256 per $100 of assessed value. Based on the proposed property tax request and changes in other revenue, the total operating budget of the City of Waverly will exceed last year's by a negative 12%. Which is a little bit hard to understand. But what that means is that our general operating or day-to-day budget has increased by 26.12%, but our non-operating part of our budget, which would be debt service, capital projects, and transfers, has decreased by 19.64%, meaning the total operating budget does decrease by 11.73%, which rounds up to negative 12%. Much of the day-to-day operations increases revolve around increases in supplies and materials pricing, labor pricing, or labor costs, I should say, fire and rescue protection, law enforcement, and equipment purchases needed throughout the city. Our levy history, much like Hickman, we have stayed at the same levy rate for about 5 years now. To obtain more information regarding the increase in the property tax request, citizens may contact the City of Waverly at 402-786-2312. You can email the city administrator at cityadministrator@citywaverly.com.
Good evening, I'm Liz Standish, Associate Superintendent for Business Affairs for Lincoln Public Schools, and I'm here to share with you a little bit about the Lincoln Public Schools budget and budget process this evening. I would like to share there's a great deal of information available on our website. We do have a budget calendar that spans back to June. We had 2 public work sessions and several public forums in development of our budget and gathering feedback and input on the needs of the school district. You can see here on this slide our valuation and the valuation increase of 22.5%. You can see the proposed levy rates when you look at the general fund and what is called the Qualified Capital Purpose Undertaking Fund, which are the 2 funds that were calculated on your pink postcards. And you can see the tax request and the changes in the tax request. I would like to point out that as our Board of Education was gathering needs for the school district and determining how to meet those needs, we did have a significant conversation on rising valuations, and there was a decision to make a significant drop in the levy, 14-cent drop from $1.21 to $1.07. So each individual taxpayer's circumstance will be different based on their valuation. The history of the tax levy, just to give you an idea of what that 14-cent reduction means when you look back over history, you can see that in the context. We do have an expense budget that is growing by about 4.8%. The revenue budget is growing about 8.7%. I would like to note that state aid to our school district, because we operate in a state with what's called an equalization formula, which means when values go up, state funding goes down. So our state funding did decrease $10 million this last year, and that has a significant impact on the school district. You can see that the tax rate would have been 87 cents if that had stayed the same. Our budget is predominantly made up of people, almost 90% people, so the largest driver in our budget increase would be salary benefit increases, including health insurance cost. So that is the majority of the increase for Lincoln Public Schools. We also opened a new school, Standing Bear High School. Yes, that school was built with bond funding, but it does take general funding to operate that school. We also have fixed cost increases like transportation. We also have a community of prioritizing things like additional investments in early childhood. And so those are some of the key components of the budget increase for Lincoln Public Schools. We know that we have shifted to being reliant on property taxes. That is the formula, how state funding goes down as property values increase. Here is just a snapshot of our state funding when you look back over several years to 2016, 2017. And so that does result in increases and the expectation that we access the valuation growth because the formula takes it into account and reduces our state funding. If you have any questions about the school district budget, feel free to call me. I'd be happy to have a conversation. Once again, there's lots of information on our website for Lincoln Public Schools and lots of resources.
Good morning. or good evening. I'm Amy Jorgens with Southeast Community College, Vice President for Administrative Services. I'm joined today by the SCC Board Chair, Neil Stenberg, and Brandon Gunther, SCC Board Member. Just as an overview of SCC, SCC has 3 campuses and 6 learning centers in 15 counties in southeast Nebraska. The main campuses are in Lincoln, Beatrice, and Milford. SCC's 15-county population is about 500,000 people. SCC serves about 14,000 credit students and 9,000 non-credit students. The average age is about 22. Average age of a student is about 22. From the fall of 22 to fall of 23, there was an enrollment increase. SCC is a comprehensive community college that provides dual credit, academic transfer, and career and technical education. LB644, which was passed in the spring, affects SCC's funding. SCC will be able to maintain the 2-cent levy authority for capital improvements. However, in 24-25, the Community College Future Fund will be replacing the general fund levy authority that SCC currently has. Beginning in 24 and 25, SCC will not have a general fund taxing authority. The Community College Future Fund in 24-25 will be equal to the amount levied in 23-24 or the amount generated by the mandatory minimum set by LB644 of 7.5 cents, and whichever is greater. And this is really considered the baseline for 23-24, and this is driving SCC state funding for the years after 23-24. The budget in 24-25 would be baseline plus 3.5% percentage increase, would be baseline plus 3.5%, or the percentage increase in reimbursable education units, whichever is greater. A reimbursable education unit is a unit assigned to a course. We're very tech heavy. There's a lot of costs involved in some of the equipment. So we're assigned a 2 for some of those higher tech courses. And that's how the Division of State Aid really goes out on the REUs. SCC retains the ability to levy a general fund tax rate to fund the Community College Future Fund or state aid if necessary. Taxpayers can receive 100% tax credit for 23-24 taxes. For the 23-24 transition year, the taxpayers will be able to receive 100% tax credit. There are many factors that we considered when we were establishing the Community College Future Fund baseline. It's SCC's strategic goals and objectives, our current unmet needs, our future needs, our enrollment growth to address workforce demand and unexpected events. Statutorily, currently, SCC has the ability to levy 11.25 cents per $100 valuation. Currently, we're at 9.37 cents. So the green represents our unused taxing authority that SCC has not taken over the years. We have never been at our maximum of 11.25 cents. Our remaining authority currently is 1.88 cents. As you can see a little bit in what our unmet needs are is we have a lot of proactive maintenance, deferred maintenance that we need on our buildings, on our equipment, and we estimate that to be about $21 million. 80% of SCC's general fund budget is salary and benefits, and we estimate that to be about $4 million, and expanded projects is about $3 million. That's to address new needs that the community and workforce and how we can address those needs. So our estimated needs in 24-25 is about $28 million. A cumulative estimate over the next 15 years would be $420 million. SEC plans to set its 23-24 levy rate at 8.5 cents to transition off the general fund property tax authority in 24-25. 8.5 cents is near the midpoint between the mandatory minimum of 7.5 cents and the maximum that SEC could levy of 9.25 cents, which results in a savings of more than $6 million per year to the Community College Future Fund. Taxpayers are eligible for a 100% tax credit for the amount of community college taxes paid in 2024 based on the 8.5 cent levy rate. The 100% tax credit facilitates the setting of the new Community College Future Fund baseline without creating a burden to the taxpayer. The Southeast Community College tax request. The total 23-24 property tax request is $83,078,523. That includes the following separate funds. The general fund, the 23-24 property tax request for the general fund is $67,254,043. The capital improvement fund, the 23-24 property tax request for the capital improvement fund is $15,824,480. The total assessed value of property differs from last year's total assessed value by 14.77% based in the 15-county area. The tax rate, which would levy the same amount of property taxes as last year when multiplied by the new total assessed value of property, would be 8.164 cents per $100 valuation of assessed value that includes the following separate levies. General fund. The general fund levy, which would levy the same amount of property taxes as last year when multiplied by the new assessed value of property, would be 6.421 cents per $100 of assessed value. The capital improvement fund. The capital improvement fund levy, which would levy the same amount of property taxes as last year when multiplied by the new assessed value of property, would be 1.743 cents per $100 of assessed value. The Southeast Community College proposes to adopt a property tax request that will cause its tax rates to be 8.5 cents per $100 of assessed value. The general fund levy. The Southeast Community College area proposes to adopt a general fund property tax request that will cause its tax rate to be 8.5 cents per $100 of assessed value. And the capital improvement fund levy. The Southeast Community College area proposes to adopt a capital improvement fund levy property tax request that will cause its tax rate to be 2 cents per $100 of assessed value. Based on the proposed property tax request and changes in other revenue, the total operating budget of Southeast Community College will exceed last year's by 0.97%. Based on the proposed property tax request and changes in other revenue, the general fund budget of Southeast Community College will exceed last year's by 16.87%. Based on the proposed property tax request and changes in other revenue, the capital improvement fund budget of Southeast Community College will be less than last year's by 0.61%. Based on the proposed property tax request and changes in other revenue, the other restricted funds budget of Southeast Community College will be less than last year's by 6.05%. And just as a reminder, there is a 100% tax credit in this transition to the new funding model, and that was very important to Southeast Community College, that the taxpayers were able to get that 100% tax credit. So the 2023 income tax returns that are filed in 24, taxpayers can receive a tax credit estimated to be around 50% of the 2022 community college property tax paid in 2023. The amount paid was based on the levy rate set by the college in September of 22. And in 2024 income tax returns filed in 2025, taxpayers can receive a tax credit equal to 100% of 2023 community college property tax paid in 2024. The amount paid will be based on the levy set by the college in September of 2023. If you have questions, need additional information, have comments, this is SCC's contact page. We can be reached at 323-3401, and the budget information is also available on our public website at www.southeast.edu.
Okay, that will wrap up the presentation side of the agenda. So now we will move into the public comment piece. So, as I mentioned earlier, we will start taking testifiers up to the podium. As I mentioned, first one can come up here, second one can be ready over there, and then we've got the 2 seats in the front, and we'll just kind of rotate individuals through as we keep going. So we'll start the 3-minute comment. So first one up, let's go.
Go ahead.
What? Yeah, and so please state and spell your name for the record. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Deborah White, D-E-B-R-A-W-H-I-T-E. I just bought my first home in Lincoln this April, so I've only been in there a few months. Since I purchased the home, the property taxes went up significantly. The HOA fees went up, and now LES has announced a rate increase. And now we've got 3 taxing districts that want to increase rates. So I'm going to be hit doubly with increased values and increased rates. I am on a fixed income, and I'm quickly being priced and taxed out of my new home. So I am against these rate increases. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Harrison, 2511 South 52nd Street here in Lincoln. I was fortunate enough to be able to buy a home, my first home, in 2018. In the 5, almost 6 years I've been in this home, my taxes have, the value of my house has doubled. $20,000 every single year since I bought the house. I'm single, I have no children, but yet my wage does not increase, my health care increases, I pay crazy amounts of wheel tax, and I do not see where the money is going. Full transparency, I work for the city. I work for street maintenance. I am not seeing where this money is going. This is absolutely ridiculous. My younger siblings were priced out of this city. They had to move outside of the city of, actually out of Lancaster County, because they could not afford a first home in this city. And I think that is absolutely ridiculous. At the rate this is going, initially, I will now pay $1,500 more in taxes than I did when I bought my house, which increases my payment $100 a month, which doesn't seem much. But when you have people that are on fixed incomes and they're being priced out of their homes, and when I watch the city council meetings, TIF money is being thrown around like candy. Where is this money going? Why are we being taxed out when fuel is up, groceries are up? I mean, it cost me $100 to fill up my vehicle. That's crazy. I can't leave town. I have to start cutting back so I lose services. So we have all these people here, and I see a lot of people that are retirement age. If you're on a fixed income, how are you able to fund this every single month increasing? So now my house essentially is $225 a square foot. This is a less than 1,000 square foot house. $225 a square foot. Imagine if my house was 10,000 square feet, which fortunately it's not. But I cannot, in good faith, go with all this tax increase year after year after year. So that is all. Good evening.
Hello, my name is Scott Gatewood. That's Gatewood. I'm at 641 Pier 1. Property valuation went up 100%. I feel like the challenge probably for most everyone here in the room is the valuation increase.
The tax rates have essentially largely stayed the same, but the valuations have massively increased. I have an 1,100 square foot property that in 2018, I protested the 20% tax increase then. The city had shown that property at 1.5 bath, and it's a 1 bath home. I was denied. When this evaluation doubling the property's value occurred, I protested that, stating again the city is evaluating the property inappropriately. In addition, the property is encumbered by it's called it's a right-of-way for stormwater runoff. So part of the property is not buildable. It's also pie-shaped, and so the buildable area, the setback from the front, the narrow end of the pie, is such that there's very little buildable area on the property, encumbered by this additional drainage way that makes it unbuildable. None of that was, all of those protest comments were rejected as part of my protest this time. And I feel like property taxes have gone up almost $450 a month on the property, 1,100 square foot, 1 bathroom, 2 bedroom. And so I think most of the people in this room share the same feeling. It's not the tax rate, it's the property valuation. It's staggering, and it's staggering everyone in addition to everything else they're dealing with. I had hoped to meet with an official to go through everything, including a survey of the property, showing this encumbrance, showing the constraint. This property is not like the neighbors that have a pie-shaped property as well. Can't build on it because there's a 10-foot easement. So I don't feel that we're being listened to. I think the rates were increased on the property. Those who were here that protested previously, my experience was I was not listened to. And the people that were hired by the city to do the evaluations and to shuffle this through.
That's your time, sir.
Couldn't speak with them, couldn't meet
That's your
with them.
time, sir. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Thank you for your time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the panel. I'm Jason Ball, that's Jason Ball. I appear tonight on behalf of the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce. And tonight I'm going to limit my observations on the budget to SEC's proposed 2024 budget. Chamber has a long history of partnership, support, and collaboration with Southeast Community College, namely because Southeast Community College is absolutely essential for providing workforce for our businesses, and we believe opportunities for our residents and students. And because of that long history of collaboration, it's particularly difficult to be here tonight to express our concern and disagreement with the proposed 2024 SEC budget. Now again, we're bought into the mission. A successful Southeast Community College is going to be absolutely critical for our success in business growth in this community moving forward. But good partners also share honest disagreements when they arise, and we are in different positions at this moment. We've been able to share those concerns in multiple meetings with SEC's leadership, and we appreciate the time that we've been able to have to speak with them about that. In particular, the Chamber is concerned with SEC assessing a levy increase over and above the historic valuation increases that folks have been talking about tonight. That's a 15% average valuation increase that occurred in SEC's 15-county footprint, over 20% right here in Lancaster County. This far exceeds the growth plus inflation standard that has guided the Chamber's observations about taxing and spending policy in previous years. I want to note the property tax credit that's being made available to homeowners and property owners. that won't reach an individual or family that rents their residence. It won't reach a business that leases its property. Those will not extend down to those people that are not owning those properties. Even setting that aside, there will still end up being a state responsibility that will be taken on by the taxpayers of the entire state. And so we find that this budget is not representative of a consensus balance between the needs for growth at SCC and the concerns of taxpayers and businesses that pay those bills. I appreciate your time and attention tonight. Thank you.
My name is Alessandra Holmes, spelled ALYSSANDRA HOLMES. I am also a recent homeowner, starting just this year, and my concern is that the cost of food has done nothing but go up. The cost of gas has done nothing but go up. The cost of electric and gas has done nothing but go up. Childcare has gone up. Health insurance premiums have gone up, and health insurance itself has gone up. Health costs gone up. Where is this money supposed to come from? My budget is already fully utilized. I do not have the money to switch around to accommodate the proposed additional costs that you are suggesting. I don't have it. It doesn't exist. And you're saying that the reason for this increase is because there are new properties and there are new valuations, but the fact of the matter is I'm not seeing any of that. So why am I and why are these people being essentially penalized for other people's assessments and for other people building houses? Like, we are not representative of a particularly wealthy class, and yet I feel that we are very unfairly expected to shoulder the bulk majority of the changes that you are proposing. Also, I'm not entirely on board with all of the changes that are being proposed. I do not think that the police budget needs to be expanded. I have had multiple very terrifying encounters in which the police have been less than useless. I do not see a reason to grant them additional funding. They have been less than useless. They have not been assisting at all. Why are we increasing funding to them when essentially all I have actually witnessed them do is harass people who are exercising their constitutional right to protest? I do not think that that is an appropriate use of taxpayer funds. The elderly facilities, yes. The local parks and pools, yes, absolutely. But I do not think that it is fair for us to shoulder a disproportionate amount. And I understand that in some cases you are stating that percentages are going down, but percentages mean very little when the actuality of the situation is that the monthly expenditure that I have to shoulder is going up. So I disagree.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the panel. My name is Christian Burbach, CHRSTIAN. I'm a first-time home buyer in South Lincoln. I just wanted to show up tonight to speak for all the people that are my age, just getting out of college, who have actively been looking at purchasing their starter homes. They couldn't be here tonight because they haven't been able to financially achieve that home purchase yet, and everyone's looking. Factoring in these high property taxes and interest rates that are, 8-7% depending on what you can get. Property values have been at all-time highs. They haven't fallen off yet. Mortgage rates are between 7 and 8, like I said. Makes it harder than ever relatively to make these mortgages work on a monthly basis, especially if you aren't going in with any pre-existing equity in a home you're selling. And I just question if it's in the best interest of citizens, especially young people trying to buy a home in Lincoln for the first time, to have these taxes increased. And it just seems like most of the people that benefit the most from these budget proposals, especially budget proposals in the past, are the contractors that are building all these new buildings in town, while homeowners keep picking up their tab. And I don't want to forget about all the money wasted on the Redway Airport initiative, which was just in the news as recently as last month. Contractors' pockets got filled, and the Lincoln area citizens had the Redway project close up shop on them after 3 months, just in August, and $3 million plus were wasted. And I find it hard to imagine that they didn't run those numbers ahead of time when they built the airport extension to know that it wasn't going to work out in the end. Young people talk about home ownership and interest rates all the time. We notice these tax increases that squeeze all of us. We also notice the under-delivered services oftentimes. All this makes the dream of homeownership that much harder in our great city, and I do love this city. Please reconsider the budget instead of raising property taxes. Thank you.
Sir, can you spell, sir? Can you have the last gentleman come up and spell your last name, please?
Burbach.
Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Amanda Carnes, first name Amanda, last name Carnes, Carnes. I live within the Southeast Community College political subdivision, so I'm mainly going to be talking to you. Tried to listen to the presentation before really compiling what I wanted to say, just to try and hear you out. I did make a phone call today as well to the number that was presented on the pink cards that were mailed out to everyone. The gentleman that answered the phone was actually quite helpful. But a few things of note. Really what this is boiling down to is kind of some of the sentiments that I've heard already, which is we're supposed to really do more with less with our own budgets. And I still am left with this feeling that all of you need to be doing that as well. And it doesn't necessarily... It doesn't necessarily feel that that's happening based on what I heard today. For example, we're talking about the capital fund with SCC is mainly for new construction. That's a quote. It was for new construction. I haven't been to the Milford campus recently or the Beatrice campus, so I can't speak to those. But I've been to the Lincoln campus a lot in the last 2 years. There is so much new construction going on out there. I think it's good, you know, considering what the economy looks like at this point for everyone else. I mean, it seems like the students out there are very well taken care of. Again, I might be wrong with the other two campuses. I'm not entirely sure on those two. Secondly, the general fund, the gentleman that I spoke to today mentioned that it was primarily for the mass bulk of it was really for salaries and things of that nature, administrative costs. I haven't gotten a salary increase except for a very small percentage cost of living because I do work for Lancaster County and that's negotiated into our budget. It is small. It definitely wasn't the percentage rate that he gave me that was being talked about for y'all. Now I realize you have to pay your people and you have to pay them well. It's a community college. I want good job opportunities and education for everybody just as much as everyone else in this room, I believe. But again, there just seems like there could be some areas to cut, and that's not happening. Finally, I was unsure as to whether or not I was going to bring this up tonight, but I think I'm going to. Just today, SCC is a taxpayer-funded institution with some of the costs that go into that. And there was a particular group that had a fundraising event that they were going to be holding, and they do have a political leaning to them at the Lincoln campus this week. And it was canceled by SCC because of some bullying that happened from the other side of the political spectrum, so it would seem. And so I guess if SCC is going to engage in having those types of events held at its facility that is paid for by the taxpayers that hold a wide variety of beliefs, it needs to be open to all of them. I don't know that other ones have been canceled in the past. I just wouldn't want to see other ones being put there in the future if that's the case. Finally, I was told that there's
That's
a
your
vote
time, ma'am.
Tuesday next week, Milford campus, 3 p.m., the vote.
Hello, my name is Travis Buell. Buell is spelled B as in boy, B-U-E-L. I live in the county, in the Hickman area, and I came just to speak on behalf of, I think tax levies are too high. I think they need to be lowered based on the valuations. I'm gonna give just a couple examples. I just met a guy this morning. He's about 70 years old, and he was selling his house. And I asked him, why were you selling his house? Because he's in good shape. Doesn't look like he needs to go to the old folks' home. And he said, I really just can't afford the taxes. And I said, that kind of hit me, because I was like, okay, this thing's been bothering me too, but now we're forcing people out of their houses. They're selling because they're not paying the taxes. He said he's going to move outside the county. I go, you're losing good people because of this. So I don't like that. Number two, I was just going to say, and I agree with the gentleman that spoke earlier with the levies. The key is the levies need to decrease a bit. The valuations are valuations. If people are paying more for the properties, you can't really argue with the valuation. But the levies are forcing taxpayers property taxpayers pay more money to these groups. And I'll just take the example. With Hickman, where I'm at, the last 4 years, the increases in property valuations were 24%, 12%, 16%, and 6%. That's the last 4 years. If I want to keep going, it's 17%, 8, 16, so you can see the trend. But the key that I want to compare that to is actual inflation. The property valuations are outpacing inflation. Inflation's where people get their income, their CPU adjustments for their incomes. And inflation for those same 4 years I just went off of were 3, and I just said 24%, so it's 3% last year for inflation, 3.7. 2022 was 6.5% compared to 12% property valuation increase. And 2021 was 7% inflation, which is a lot, I give it that, but we had a 17% property valuation increase. And the year before was a 1.4% inflation increase. I think the taxes need to be much more in line with inflation. That's my point. The levies need to decrease by an amount similar to the amount of the valuations increase so that it matches inflation. It's not a fair equation. That's it.
Good evening. My name is Jason Turner. That's JASONTURNER. I'm speaking to oppose. The reason I am opposing, me and my wife are first-time homeowners. We bought our house during COVID. So we were shocked last year when tax rate went up $200. So what do? We went into our escrow, which was negative. So now when taxes go up again, we're going to be negative again. We had to sign a 2-year contract for this. So that's 2 years that we're already trying to make up this $3,600. So we're not going to be able to do that. So then when we increase now, we're going to be even more behind. So we don't know where to put our extra money into our escrow. So my wife drives back and forth between here, Waverly, and Omaha. So if it comes down to us having to get gas or food for our kids, we're going to have to sell our house. We love our house. We don't want to leave Lincoln. We don't want to move. But if we have to, we're going to sell our house, and then we're going to be forced to look into this huge interest rate of trying to buy a new house, which we're not going to be able to fit everybody in. So that is why I am opposing it. Thank you for your time. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Jerry Cummings, Cummings. We moved here in 2013, so we've been in Lincoln for 10 years. Property taxes have gone up 50%. This year, they're set to go up another 23%. All I've been doing is cutting the grass and watering it. Got a neighbor around the corner that made a hefty profit on his property, same square foot as mine, roughly. I'm paying for that next year, and I'm paying for that the following year. I don't understand why you can't freeze things at a level. The tax base has grown considerably. If you drive around Lincoln, you get on the outskirts of Lincoln, you see all kinds of development. So that means the tax base is growing. But yet we're still being squeezed as people that are invested in the city, invested in community, and we find that just living is costing us 23% next year, 50% over 10 years. It's just too much. The other thing is with Southeast Community College and Lincoln Public Schools, I was at a public hearing a couple of years ago, and there was somebody from the Lincoln Board of Education. I asked for a question. I said, when's the last time you did any checking on the programs you have, just to see if if you're wasting money, if you're spending money on things you don't need? Well, he'd been on the board for, I don't know, forever, and it took him about 20 minutes to come up with one thing that they've cut. And this is something that I appreciate the fact that police and people need pay raises. They got to pay for food too. But the fact, I didn't hear anybody say tonight that they've looked into the budgets and found out where they're paying for things they don't need or where they should cut back. That doesn't seem to be part of the process. It's all about how we can add money. So I appreciate what you do, but you got to look at, there's got to be a different way of assessing property. Just because my neighbor makes a ton of money, I'm glad he did, doesn't mean I need to pay for as long as I'm going to be in that house. Thank you very much.
My name is Ryan Yang, R-Y-A-N-Y-A-N-G. I'm a Lincoln resident. I'm going to limit my testimony to that relating to SCC and LPS, specifically regarding my frustration at how in this legislative session, a lot of legislation was passed to alleviate the tax burden placed on taxpayers. And I'm going to give a lot of context because for the people and the taxpayers in this room, a lot of stuff happened in the legislature that was designed to alleviate the tax burdens that are imposed upon us. But it seems like, and I appreciate the hard work that you guys do. I know you're tough. It's a tough job, and people can give you a really hard time for it. But when you are operating in a way that seems so overhanded, in a way that's betraying the taxpayer, it's something that I don't appreciate. So LB644 was specifically designed to alleviate property taxes in Nebraska, specifically by eliminating the levying authority of the community college systems, and by the legislature picking up the tab and providing entirely for your general fund expenditures. Now, a few weeks after the legislation was passed and after the session ended, SEC immediately voted to increase and max out their levy at the highest rate possible. And when I inquired to the board as to why this was the case, when the legislation was specifically designed to prevent you from having to do that unless you absolutely needed to, the answer was essentially, well, in the event that we actually need to spend money, we want to tax you at the highest rate possible. And that is not an acceptable answer when the legislation was designed to offset your costs that you didn't have to. The additional thing that I'm very frustrated at is with LPS, with LB583, which is the Education Future Fund, which gave $1 billion to public education. That's a lot of money. And that is $1,500 per student and a special education reimbursement up to 80%. And those funds are demonstrably being enacted in your districts, and I know you need that a lot. But when those funds are being given to you by the legislature to offset your costs, and you're still choosing to increase the levy, and in this case, in LPS, despite the supposed decrease of the levying rate, I'm going to point to this article published in the Lincoln Journal-Star on June 28th of this year, which said, while the 13% levy decrease is a significant drop, over the past 20 years, it's dropped by only about 10 cents total. About 60% of a Lincoln taxpayer's property tax bill goes to LPS. Skipping down a little bit, that means that LPS will still bring in about $18.5 million more than it needs for its projected 2023-2024 spending needs. So when we're talking about good spending and good governance, I spend most of today looking at your budget proposals and looking at what exactly you're asking for, and the things that I'm seeing are, why aren't they doing more with what they've already got? Every single year, there is an increase of 20% of what you're asking for, an increase in LPS's case of millions of dollars more than what you already have. For what case? When we're talking about flat years with no inflation, the tax levy still increases, which makes me wonder whether or not the money is actually being properly used. And for that, I ask you to please not propose any further tax levy increases, because it's just incredibly frustrating for us, the taxpayers. Thank you.
My name is Steve Davies, D-A-V-I-E-S. We, the taxpayers, are fed up. The average American household is spending more than $8,000 more this year than we did 2 years ago for the same level of living. And now we get a property tax. We're making cuts, we're taking bigger debt, and now we have to add that with the tax increase. Our tax system is broken. We are the fourth worst property tax system in the U.S. We're losing our young people. We're losing our retired people. We're bleeding. There's a trio of state senators, nonpartisan, that have put a plan together that would eliminate property, state income, and corporate taxes, inheritance taxes, and sales taxes. It would raise the same amount of money. All government entities will get the same amount as they're getting now. Currently, 60% of Nebraskans are paying 100% of the tax. This system would spread the base, everybody will pay a little bit, and we'd end the great burden, especially on our retired people. It will be a consumption tax on new items, so no used items would be taxed. It would expand into services. The state sales tax rate is 5.5%. This would go to 7.5% on new goods and services. But no tax on used items. You buy a used car, no tax when you buy it. And any car that you own, no personal property tax every year. Just the tag fee. And it would not, the proposal is to not tax groceries like we do now. And there would be no business-to-business input costs. So a farmer, an electrician, a beauty store operator, everything they buy to run their business is not taxed. This is only a final consumption level tax. A group of us volunteers are trying to get this on the ballot for next election next year. And I have petitions. I'll be outside the room here if anybody wants to help us get it on the ballot next year. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Molly McClure Went. It's MOLLY capital CLURE Went WENT. I live at 12610 Waverly Road. I don't think you have any comprehension of how upset I really am. I don't think you have any comprehension of disparity in this state. So much disparity. It's unbelievable. And you sit there and you look at us like we're all a bunch of crazy people because we're worried about our property taxes. Well, guess what you have? You've taxed us out of our homes. My husband bought those 5 acres we live on in 2017. It was an overgrown nightmare. Nobody wanted it. You didn't care about it then. But you sure care about it now that we've busted our butts to make it something we could live in. I seriously live in a van down by the river. It's 1,035 square foot. I have a 1-bedroom, 1-bath ranch, and I love it. I lost my husband 19 months ago tomorrow. I buried him on his 52nd birthday. He turned 21 in the desert, going into Kuwait. Do any of you care? Absolutely not. I voted for property tax relief, and this is not property tax relief. $45,000 in assessed value and $36 a month in my payment is not property tax relief. I don't have any kids. I have no skin in the game when it comes to schools. But I don't believe we should skimp on our education because I do believe there's a lot to that. Don't get me wrong. I didn't graduate from college. I went to school at UNO for a year and decided I just wanted to be a golf pro, and here I am. Okay? I'm not a golf pro. I'm just a lowly real estate broker. I'm one step above a car salesman, and I get it. And I understand that I've got to pay a little bit of a luxury to live on a paved road that gets swept clean from snow, and I'm 15 minutes from a Walmart. But you just stuck a prison less than 3 miles from my front door, and I didn't get a say. Not a single stitch of a say. Am I going to get my 45 grand back? Because if you sit here and tell me that's not going to affect my resale value, you are sorely mistaken, and that is a matter of opinion. If you feel okay going to bed tonight crapping all over a veteran's widow, more power to you.
Good evening. Molly, I'm sorry for your loss. Very sorry. I am 61, my first time ever doing this. I'm going to tell you I have a great job in Lincoln.
I can't hear. Is her microphone on?
Hello? How about that? Okay. My name is Sandra Kahn, Sandra Kahn. I'm corn-fed, Nebraska bred. Okay? Lived here all my life, 61. 5 more years, I'm going to retire. I've been blessed to have a wonderful job in the city of Lincoln. It is aviation, and I'm sure you know who it is, okay? I am getting raises, yes, but not enough to meet my value. I live in a tin box. I have a mobile home. That depreciates worse than a car. And you raised it $5,500. Okay? Oh, yes. Let me tell you, I got pictures. My neighbor bought his for $1,900. Really? Mine's $15,500? No. I probably couldn't sell it for $5. It's a $10. Who wants to live in a $10? Well, let me tell you, that's my home, and it's been my home for 29 years. I have made it what it is. But for you to raise the value of that, $5,500? It ain't even probably worth that. I have no kids. I am not married by my choice. I'm divorced. No children. I drove a school bus for LPS. Was wonderful. I don't mind paying for education. It might help keep some of the thugs off the streets if you put that money to education. Okay? I have friends that have been in the prison system. You need to work with them to keep them off the streets. Period. Education is where it starts. I don't have a problem paying a little more for education in schools. SCC, I went for a quarter, didn't like it. Didn't like high school. Why in the hell would I like college? No. I went to work, and I've been blessed with a very, very good job. And I have dental, medical, vision, a 401k, which I'm probably going to have to borrow against because the raises don't meet up with electric, gas, cable, phone, groceries. It just doesn't meet it. Thank God I have a 401k. Will I retire at 65? I'll probably retire sitting in my chair when I'm dead. Thank you.
I'm Dave Ludwig, Ludvik. I am 72 years old. I retired when I was 68, moved to Lincoln. That was the biggest mistake of my life, it looks like. Since then, I have taken on 3 part-time jobs. I sharpen mower blades, I work auctions, and I run a motor grader part-time. My wife is 71. She's physically unable to work. Otherwise, I would put her to work too, just to pay my property taxes. My house, when I bought it, was assessed at $183. Today, it's $294. And I have made no improvements, none, other than keep it looking nice. I got a cost of living on my Social Security of 6%, and then my property taxes go up 38, 40-some%. It's just out of hand. There's got to be some cuts in the budget. There's no reason why every budget couldn't be cut 10%. There's got to be some waste, and that's a small amount, but it's a start. And I think most of these people want some cuts made, not just keep raising the taxes. Thank you for your time, and I think we're overtaxed, and we need budget cuts.
Taxes. Can you hear me? Okay. Taxes. Bible says you owe taxes, pay taxes. But the Bible also says a lot about the wisdom of leadership, good leadership and bad leadership. Spend is not good leadership. This is what it says here. More than allowable growth. That means there's a cap, a limit. And what you guys are proposing is actually not allowable. Unless we have this, and then who gets to vote? Do the people get to vote? Or is it just a small group of people that get to vote about millions and millions of dollars? And it's spend. The reason the cap's put on is because of government and non-government and government entities spend. We have to live under our means. Y'all do too. You need taxes, but you need control. That's why they have a cap. That's why they have a limit. Now, they also gave a way out for that limit. Why? For emergencies. Not one of you folks came up with an emergency. A tornado tearing up your school building, that's an emergency. This is just spend, 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 spend. Folks, we're here with it. Lincoln, Lancaster County, y'all are notorious for the tax rates here, the amount of money that y'all get, because you need to spend, spend, spend. Cut it out. Live in reality because we have to. I hope this doesn't go through because you guys need to have restraint. Thank you.
Sir, can you... Could the last gentleman come up and spell his name for the record, please?
My legs are a little non-functional tonight.
No, thank you.
My name's Paul Steinmetz, Steinmetz.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Nathan Habel. I got this pink card in the mail, and so I inquired with my city council.
Spell your name, please.
Yeah. Nathan Habel. So I inquired of my city council representative what the ramifications of this tax increase was. And we had a discussion, and he assured me that the budget is lean and trim and there's no fat at all. It is just down the line, just what we need, with no extras on it, no frills. And he got me in this quandary where our conversation kind of went flat when he asked me, well, what would I cut? And I thought about this question, well, without being familiar with the minutia of the budgetary itemized process, I don't know. So whatever I were to say, it would kind of be like a trap door. And so I thought about that, and the more I've thought about it, I've come to realize that it's kind of a misdirection. What would I cut? That question actually, and I have some responsibility, let me get to that in a second, but what would I cut is actually a question for the department heads of the people running those organizations. When you operate with 10% less, you guys have to figure it out as to what gets cut when there's not enough to go around. Similarly, as a taxpayer, I have to go to my favorite park. Perhaps it's closed. That's kind of a bum deal, but do I want to pay more taxes for it? Or perhaps the fire department comes and only saves half of my house. Oh, would I like them to be a little quicker? I don't know. Maybe it's worth the tax increase. Or to the police department, like the response time is, 3 minutes instead of 2. Yeah, are there gives and takes in this situation? I think there are. And to act like there aren't, I think, is probably where we need to start and realize that there are things we can get away with. I have one anecdotal example which illustrates my point. I volunteer at Matt Talbot Kitchen and Outreach on Thursdays. There was a domestic disturbance that happened at the dinner hour about 5:15, give or take. Imagine my surprise when one officer called for backup. And when that officer called for backup, how many officers would you send? I guess this isn't a question and answer. Okay, there was 8. And I think that's a little excessive. I'd pay a little bit less taxes if there was like 4. I think 4 is good. One guy, out of hand a little bit, we could get him, got tasers and whatnot. This is the approach we need to take is, yeah, our police do a great job and we want to commend them, but we do have limits. Thank you.
Hello. Excuse me. Hello, my name is Jeff Adler, Jeff with a J. Adler is last name. I live in Utica, and I'm here mostly to address the Southeast Community College budget. Now, these taxes are, when in Seward County, it's part of a list of about 40 other things that you're paying for. But your proposed increase to me, I thought I saw something about 15% or something like that. Well, mine is 23%, going from $56 to almost $70 a month, which is about 23% tax increase. Well, if you take these things out 5 years, next year it'll be up $14. Next year after that it'll be up 16. Then it'll be up 20, up 24, and in 5 years' time, my taxes will increase almost $90, and that's about a 250% increase in 5 years. Well, the only thing I want to see increased by 250% in Nebraska is the number of wins that the Nebraska Cornhuskers made in a season. I don't think that kind of taxes increase over 5 years is really worth my troubles. That's all.
My name is Manuel Gamez, MANUEL-GAMEZ, and I have a house that is 480 square feet. It was valued at $34,000, I think, 3 years ago. It is now valued at $73,000. That's for 480 square feet. I have put insulation in the attic to kind of offset my costs of living, and that helped by 100 kilowatts a month. That adds up to about $40 in a month. That's for 3 months for the peak season that you have to use that air conditioner for. That adds up to about $120 a year, and you're raising my property tax by $100. That means that insulation is now just worth $20 to me. That hurt. I'm doing my part to shore up my cost of living here, and I want to know what you guys are doing to shore up your costs of living here. I'm doing my part. You guys need to do a better part in this. I went to the store and I saw a box of cornflakes for $6.50. That's a box of cornflakes. We make corn here. Yeah, that was really sad. My neighbor put in some solar panels just to run a window air conditioner. That's all he put them in for. I'm tempted to do the same thing. That's shoring up my cost again. What are you guys doing to shore up your costs? Is there any insulation that you guys are doing here? Anything to cut your costs? It was a long time ago, but you guys, all you did was stop giving us our paychecks in an envelope, and that saved you a lot of money. And that was just an envelope. I know there's more places that you guys can cut costs without having to raise our costs of living. You know what? $100 doesn't sound like a lot, but that will get you 100 trips to and from a dialysis clinic on a city bus. It's either that or you take Uber. And if you're retired like I am, you have to try to call a friend to take you there. And they're working 8 hours a day. Try going to a dialysis clinic on those hours. I have lots of friends. They're all working.
My name is Bill Wilson, Wilson. I live in Lancaster County in Lincoln. We're being taxed to death. And I think every one of you guys, when you set a new budget, you should look at how can I decrease that budget, not how can I increase it. It starts there. Decrease your budget. Because we're having to foot the bill. And I'm hurting. I mean, soon you are going to start forcing a lot of people out of this city. You're going to tax us right out of here. Now, just a side note, my tax bill, my property tax bill, $4,000 of it is going to go to LPS. None of it is going to educate me, and I don't have any children. So here's $4,000 times 10 years is $40,000. I don't even make that much in a year anymore because I'm disabled. You guys have got to stop. I'm going to pass it on to the next folks.
Dan Klein, Klein, 3745 Calvert. I think if we had a bigger venue, we should have some bleachers here so that you guys are not just the representation, that the boards and the council can look us in the eyes as we testify. I think it's a disservice to you and to us that everybody is not represented here. For the context of my remarks, when I use the word government, I'm referring to the entities of the cities, the county, LPS, and SEC. Property valuation increase, and sometimes they decrease. Though property valuation is not your role, I believe the valuation process is flawed. I agree with the Platt Institute that the government entity's income should not be tied to tax hikes based on fluctuating values. It should be based on a revenue-neutral rate to meet the budget. This will provide predictable bills for taxes for homeowners regardless of market fluctuations, whether there's surges or declines. Local government entities can budget knowing their revenue is a steady and predictable one. And another bonus is the transparency for taxpayers. I have an extreme case of increased property valuations on some of my properties, and it will severely impact my business. I have 3 properties that are more than doubling in assessed value from last year to this. I have one that is increasing 5 times. So imagine your $200,000 value house last year is now $1 million. That's what I'm experiencing and the bills that go on with that. So my previous annual tax payment is now nearly my monthly payment. That's the devastation of this reassessment and the tax levy adjustment that's not equitable. With the current proposed budgets, one would think that we have one of the best economies and all the citizens are doing well. We must have a soaring economy and increased wages and low gas prices and goods and services for our households are low. But that's not the case. We are not in that type of economy, and cost and inflation are high. Workforce challenges are enormous, and we've just navigated one of the most horrendous economic impacts in the pandemic. The American dream of owning a home is simply not possible with the median cost of a home in our area over $300,000. Lincolnites and its businesses have to tighten their belts in this type of economy. The government, you, should do the same, but never does. This budget is the people's money, and you are the stewards of it. Do the right thing for the citizens.
Good evening. My name is Jawara James. That's Jawara. Last name is James. So we've been through this quite a bit, all right? So you've heard everybody here. All your constituencies have said what they wanted to say. You heard from a widow vet, right, that's here. You heard from everybody else about their budget. And I don't know if this is a decision board that came up earlier today, whether or not you guys make the decision or whoever makes the decision. I don't even know if they're here or not. But the whole point is that we're telling you this, and we've went through this over and over again. So what I came up here to say is that action is needed, right? So I'm not gonna go through the iterations because we got to the technicals, we got to the emotional, we got to everything else that we tried to explain to you today. Is anybody in this room here voting for increased taxes? No. Thank you. These are your constituencies. These are the people who elect or appoint you and pay you your salary. Everybody sitting up here with stone faces, I got it. I understand, right? This is kind of a political game. The other individual who came up here and said, is this allowable? Right? That's what's on the form, allowable. So if it's not allowable, I'm kind of curious why we're even here. Is this to inform us that we're gonna pay? Or is this a decision? Is this a discussion, a negotiation? But it can't be that, because we're not allowed to ask you any questions. So obviously, this is to inform us that we're going to pay regardless. Just like the past couple of times you raised taxes on all of us. I have an acre of land that's $99,000, 1 acre. This is not California. I'm not in Napa Valley, and I don't have gold under my house. So I don't understand how you come up with an assessed value of $99,000 for 1 acre of land on the outskirts of Lincoln. We've fought this so many times already. And we go through the Turk, and we go through the county assessor's office, and we keep coming back to the same, well, the other individual said it earlier today, right? He said, you're not listening, period. And I don't know what it's gonna take. Well, I know what it's gonna take. I don't know why I'm talking to you. Where's that camera at? Is it over? I don't even know what it, if it's here, if that camera's here, I'm talking to you, right? I'm talking to the people, because you elect all these individuals to spend your money.
Yeah.
So elect them out. Amen. Take their paychecks like you're taking ours.
My name is Barry Conover, and that's Barryconover. I won't beat the horse about valuations, but as a quick example, 2021, 131,800. 2022, 163,000. 2023, 208,500. That's a 23.7 and a 25% increase in 3 years. Ridiculous. I also want to touch on public safety. Our mayor chose 2 weeks after the federal government announced it was giving armored vehicles to public entities that needed such vehicles and guns. One of those armored vehicles was given to a city in Nebraska. 2 weeks later, our mayor announces a $2 million armored vehicle to support our SWAT. Well, I fully support our boys in blue. They need what they need, but our procurement system within the city of Lincoln needs to be reevaluated to seek out such government freebies. And it's not just military supplements. There's a lot of other federal government gimmies that we're not seeking. That would cut our budget, right? The other thing I want to touch on is very poor infrastructure, that our taxes are paying for road improvements on roads that really don't need to be improved. Example, Cotton Renault Street, south 11 blocks, all repaved and retopped when it was in perfectly good condition. I live at 30th and Randolph, and from 27th Street all the way to 39th Street, it is so bad, you can't hardly ride a motorcycle down it. I have called the city year after year to get it improved. They get their little sand truck with their tar and they patch it, which lasts for maybe 6 months. Well, I called the city. When did they plan on resurfacing Randolph between 27th and 39th? 2027. 2027. I just made that call about 5 weeks ago. We're not putting road improvements where they're needed, really needed. We're putting them in richer districts or richer areas where there's more tax revenue to maybe cost justify those improvements, not in the little poor areas. That's all I want to say. But we really need to look at the freebies to help cut our fire and safety, our police, whatnot, help cut that cost, but we still need to support them 100%.
Thanks, sir. That's your time.
Thank you.
Matt Scott, MATTSCOTT. Sounds like we might need a new county assessor. Doesn't seem like, seems like we're missing something here. Not really here to talk about that. I'm here more for the city of Lincoln, the Lincoln Public Schools, and Southeast Community College. I'm in the construction field, and I can say Southeast Community College probably tens of millions of dollars worth of construction work. Lincoln Public Schools, tens of millions of dollars. City of Lincoln, hundreds of millions probably. We talked about TIF money being thrown around and stuff like that. I don't have a problem paying my taxes, and I always want construction to go. I'm a construction worker. I want the construction to go. I got no problems paying my taxes on those three projects. And I don't have my computer here, but there's probably 10,000 workers that are misclassified, that are victims of wage theft and tax fraud, that are working in construction in the Lincoln market right now. These guys are not paying federally mandated taxes. There's no unemployment. There's no workman's comp. They're being paid cash under the table. It could be easily stopped with some payroll verification, some e-verify, and just a little bit of checks and balances on each one of your behalves. But the developers come in, they get your projects going, and again, the majority of the construction workers on those sites are not paying taxes, whether they're not legal to work in this state, or whether they're dodging child support, or whether they're, it doesn't matter. They're being called 1099 workers. And again, I got nothing against 1099 workers. You guys, you start up your own business, hey, build it from the bottom up and go with it. But when labor brokers are eating up my wages and making it so honest tax-paying contractors can't make a living, it kind of gets under my skin. I understand you guys are, I mean, don't get me wrong, you guys got picked to be in front of the firing squad, right? And the vote's going to go, the taxes are going to go up. Everybody in here is F'd in the A with a BD. I get it, but I'm just asking you to consider turning this down and coming up with something else to maybe get the people that should be paying taxes actually paying taxes. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Robert Overkamp, R-O-B-E-R-T, O-V-E-R-K-A-M-P. I work as a data analyst, so I'm very interested in the numbers. First of all, everyone who's watching on the monitors at home, take your pink tax slip. The county gives you dollar amounts from this last year and this upcoming year, but what they're not giving you is the percentage change. All right, you need to go and do a percentage change calculation on these. So let me give you an example. You guys are looking at numbers. There are people here that this affects, all right? So as a person, the city of Lincoln is, last year for 2022 taxes, assessed $583.93. This 2023 estimated taxes will be $726.52. That is a change of 24.4%. Lincoln Public Schools, $1,993.03 in 2022. 2023 will be $2,339.93, or a change of 17.4%. Southeast Community College, $174.84 for 2022. The change for 2023 will be $258.30. That is a change of 47.7%. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that what you all are trying to propose is not good. However, now is not the time to do this. Regular citizens are cutting back, as we've heard from everyone else. Costs are going up. We've heard what all those costs are, all right? We as citizens, we're doing our duty to make sure that we are fiscally responsible for our families. You as representatives for these different entities need to do the same thing, and you need to start cutting instead of spending. Okay. I also want to let people that are watching know this room is full, the overflow is full, and I want you as the panel to know that there were many people that I know personally that wanted to be here this evening and complain as well, but they had scheduling conflicts, so they couldn't be here. So just understand that what you're seeing here is just a very small representation of what people are feeling out there in the county. Okay? And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
My name is Steve Oborny. It's spelled O-B-O-R-N-Y. And I'm a proponent of school choice. For the best of my knowledge, Lincoln Public Schools, it costs $13,386 per student. A private school here in town is $8,168 with the difference of $5,218. The reason why I'm for school choice because some students fall out of the public school system, and I know them, and they're either in the state penitentiary or the regional center or in the mental institution. So I think we need another choice for these students here, and also employ employees, and sometimes they're not educated well enough, even though they're graduated here. I would hate to say the only thing is that if all the citizens had only one store to buy from is a Walmart, I don't think they'd be very happy because they need choice in the city of Lincoln with the different businesses that we have. Another thing is, my last item is, when I came to Lincoln, I paid $7,500 for my house. It still has a siding on in most of the windows, and the valuation on that is $95,000. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Heather Schmidt, S-C-H-M-I-D-T. It feels like you are taking advantage of a windfall that is costing property owners in Lancaster County their savings and sense of financial well-being. How do you think that makes our public schools and community colleges a partner with the taxpayers who have always supported you? Your decision to take the windfall and budget above the limit set by the legislature and signed by the governor before even giving the comprehensive plan a chance is divisive and demonstrates terrible leadership. Good leadership motivates people. There is nothing motivating about sacrificing your family home, savings, kids' college accounts, or retirement because the tax burden has become too great. If more of our retirees leave for fiscally greener pastures, then that leaves a hole in our community. These are our parents and grandparents. So many of us working families depend on them to help with our children. They are an important part of our families. There's nothing motivating about watching your local elected representatives play gotcha with state lawmakers. Lawmakers that have made it clear this isn't what they intended for us. Lawmakers that moved mountains to get a comprehensive package passed meant to address your funding needs and our tax relief. Why are you disregarding their intentions? Then there's how LPS spends our money. 60% of our property taxes go to our public schools. LPS, you are adding an entire district administrative department based on the recommendations from the superintendent. What growth to indirect costs will taxpayers be on the hook for to facilitate his expensive plan? How much more are we spending in administration than our peer groups? Your proposed ESU budget is showing a 6.6% increase. Why is the ESU budget so much higher this year? Your regular district budget is reported at 4.8%, an increase following an increase of 5.8% from last year. Property tax evaluations are giving you 22.5% more in revenue than last year, yet you say you're lowering the levy. That doesn't mean anything when we're all paying more. Our teachers are poorly compensated. That is inexcusable and should be a priority over any extra district administration build-outs. Teachers are the necessity because our students are the primary focus of quality education. Admin are secondary, or at least they should be. Our schools get a ton more money and proficiency scores go down. You refuse to make sure students have strong fundamental skills in math, science, and reading. Instead, you're going full speed ahead and investing in educational technology and other digital systems. In spite of all the newest research that shows it doesn't work as well as books, handwriting, and in-person teachers. Tech-savvy Sweden is leading the global push to ban screens in the classroom because they saw a decline in achievement. Some of this new technology has even created barriers for some students trying to access the accommodations provided them in their special education plans. Special education plans that are in compliance with IDEA. You are getting an additional $24.6 million to directly support special education, which is more than the $10 million you're losing in state aid. Back to you all. According to the Omaha World Herald, income decline in Nebraska is the 4th steepest in the nation at 3.6%, with Lincoln at 5.6%. The worst state for income decline was reported at 5.9%.
That's your time, ma'am. Thank you.
Virgil Carner, C-A-R-N-E-R. Been in business here in Lincoln for 40 years, and our business valuation or assessment proposed is up 245% for the coming year. We'll have to become a nonprofit business, and then there won't be any taxes on the business.
My name is Dan Boer, and it's spelled B-O-R-E-R. We live here in Lancaster County on a small acreage. It's been there for about 40-some years, and you can imagine the increases that we've seen in that evaluation over the years. We're doing nothing except trying to keep the place up. The buildings are older, they're getting worse, but our evaluations continue to go up. I've heard somebody up here say that Lincoln's economy is a booming economy, but I'm telling you, mine's not. I've been on a fixed income now for quite a few years. I'm 75 years old. And so I've complained about my property taxes. I've appealed it a couple times, and of course it's fell on deaf ears. They told me it doesn't make any difference if you're in a floodplain. Your property's worth just as much as everybody else's is. But I'm telling you, it's a small property and it's not much. Somebody said we should look at percentages, and I have looked at the percentages. This last year, my assessed value on my property went up 43%. The assessment to Southeast Community College went up 60%. And I just don't see how that's possible. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bud Seinhorst. I'm the president and CEO of the Lincoln Independent Business Association. That's B-U-D-S-Y-N-H-O-R-S-T. First of all, regarding the City of Lincoln budget. In 2022, the City of Lincoln passed a biennial budget, raising the budget by over 12% over 2 years, which is about 7.5% last year, another 5% this year. However, now we're seeing a bigger increase this year by the City of Lincoln. Very curious, since earlier this year, former Councilman Richard McGinnis proposed a proposal in front of the City Council to hold the line on the budget and only actually take what they budgeted for. However, that proposal went down by the City Council. However, none of them are here tonight. I would also like to point out that over the last 3 years, now these are numbers you can get off the City of Lincoln's budget if you go to lincoln.ne.gov. Over the last 3 years, they have collected $102 million more in tax revenue than they have budgeted. Let me say that again, folks. $102 million more than budget. It's in their budget books. Go check it out. But however, they're continuing to raise your taxes. Lincoln Public Schools has talked about lowering the levy by 14 cents. However, there's also the conversation that if your house is $200,000, you're going to be increasing your property taxes paid to Lincoln Public Schools by roughly $300. This is a tax increase. However, you're going to hear about the lowering of the levy. Southeast Community College increasing their levy on top of the increased property valuations. The district will be seeing roughly 30% more in property tax revenue. We've had meetings with the administration and elected officials from Southeast Community College on these proposed budgets. However, the one thing they want to have the most conversation about is the 100% tax credit. I would point out, as Mr. Ball said earlier, that credit only goes to the owner of the property. That credit is not going to those who rent houses. That credit is not going to the folks who don't own their businesses and the property where their business is. So you're not going to see that credit. So it's really important. As I have to wrap up here, I conducted a little bit of a social experiment in the last week. I reached out on social media and I said, hey, if you got a pink card, share it. I'd love to see it. Let's see what it looks like. So let's look at the numbers of random people who sent me copies of their pink postcard. The City of Lincoln, congratulations, on average a 15.09% increase. LPS, an additional 8.5% increase. Southeast Community College, 36.01%. These weren't the usual suspects that you see at city council meetings, school board meetings, and county board meetings. These were everyday citizens like the folks that are here tonight. Thank you all for being here tonight and standing up. We've got to take a look at these budgets and we've got to get them under control. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Colbert, Lisa. Last name is C-O-L-B as in boy, E-R-T. Much like the testimonies of everyone else, our assessed property value has gone up by 36.6% this year. We have appealed twice. I vote much with other people. We need a new assessor because all we've gotten is a close, no change. My fear is we're going to get the same response from you folks tonight. You'll sit here, put on a good face. I agree, you're the representatives. The other people who need to answer are not here. But are we just going to get another close, no change? Southeast Community College, 53% increase. That is what my taxes will be. We do not benefit from this. I fully support education. It's irresponsible. You are getting a windfall on our tax increase because our market values have gone up. You should be decreasing your spending to no more than 10% increase in revenue. We aren't getting 10% when we get annual raises. Figure it out. On a side note, I work for a great company, and I've had the pleasure of inviting folks to relocate to Lincoln as we are growing our campus and trying to expand jobs in Nebraska. I am facing people, though, saying, I can't move here because of the taxes. They are coming from states that don't have income tax. I get that doesn't hit you guys, but that is one thing our company is trying to overcome. But then they ask about property taxes. I can't stand behind it, you guys. How am I supposed to encourage people to come here when they are going to be taxed to death? I built a relationship with some and jokingly said, please move here so you can help me vote people out. To echo what everyone else has said, we are all pinching our pennies. We are doing the responsible thing, trying to work our budgets. We need our government officials to do the same thing. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carissa Bettendorf, K-A-R-I-S-S-A. Bettendorf, B as in boy, E-T-T-E-N-D-O-R-F as in Frank. We live in a beautiful old house in the middle of Lincoln. It's about 100 years old. Currently, we have a hole in our basement stairwell because we had to cut into it to replace a piece of wrought iron pipe that had cracked. During the summer, my husband, son, and I all sleep in our partially finished basement to save money because the top floor where our bedrooms are does not cool efficiently. I love this city. I have lived in and around Lincoln my entire life. I love Lincoln Public Schools. I have a second grader who's being very well taken care of. I work part-time for Lincoln Public Schools, and my husband works full-time for Lincoln Public Schools and has done for 15 years. During that time, our property evaluation has risen a ridiculous amount. Our incomes have not risen proportionately. I don't know where the money's going. I don't know where you guys think it's going to come from. My husband regularly works through his lunch breaks to take care of his students. We'd like to continue working here and serving the city of Lincoln. We'd like to continue living in our beautiful neighborhood in our old house with cracked pipes. But I don't know how much more property assessment raises we can sustain on our income paid by the city of Lincoln. Thank you.
My name is John Sturman, S-T-U-R-M-A-N. Open up with the phrase, death and taxes. They are inevitable. I stand before you on one half of that phrase right now. And I am hoping to retire next year. I put in over 50 years of working in my lifetime. And I personally have been fortunate enough to attain the American dream of owning my home and owning it outright. However, if I do retire next year and start to collect Social Security, I may have to rethink that. Because of the increases in taxes, and I will be on a fixed income, I have to rethink it, and I may have to continue my working career and carrying it out until who knows when this can stop. I'm hoping to leave my home to my children, but as it stands, that might become a pipe dream. The wise man would go and begin investing in property and building senior care homes. Because as I've looked around the room, a lot of us together will end up there if we have to sell our homes because we cannot afford the taxes and downsize from whatever size footage we are in at this time to maybe a 500 square foot apartment. Most of you are perhaps quite younger than myself and aren't in that situation at this time. But how many of you have had a relative, whether a grandparent or a parent, have to leave their home they worked so hard for to attain because they were priced out because of taxes? And how miserable were they when they were living in that care center that you may have frequently or infrequently gone to visit them in and looked in their eyes and seen the sadness of what they had to give up and lose? Or the holidays and Christmases and things you spent in their home that you no longer have for your own children perhaps, or even your own grandchildren, to be able to go and visit and be able to say, this was grandma's or great-grandma's or grandpa's, whatever the case may be. I have 4 grandchildren. Well, I have 3 with one on the way next month. And we generally enjoy having the whole family over. And at a point in time, they're going to look and say, what happened to Grandma and Grandpa's home? My children have to say they had to give it up because they couldn't afford the taxes. Where does their future lie? If I can't afford to stay in my home, what's going to happen to them? Thank you.
Nick, Whitney, NICKWHITNEY. All right. I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank everybody that's watching on TV and radio. Also, this should have been held at Memorial Stadium, and we would have broken another record, all right? You guys just don't want to stay 2 or 3 weeks hearing us, all right? But that's probably what it should take. All right, I'm going to talk about a joke, all right? We went to a city assessor. We saw our taxes go up years back, and so we decided he'd go to the Lancaster Event Center and talk to our city assessor. So, that city assessor was from Sioux Falls. Not even here, all right? And I talked, why are you here? Oh, don't worry, Lincoln goes there. So, there's a joke there. This is the corruption part of it, all right? They don't care what we have to say, all right? Well, the voting booth has something to say about that, too, all right? So, we got that, all right. We passed a landmark today with 33 trillion. All right, so I got 9 grandkids, 4 kids, 9 grandkids, all right? That's all left to them now, all right? And this ain't helping, all right? Granted, I can't really say a house just next door to us, it's built just like ours, sold for $240,000, and it's a $75,000 house at best, all right? Now, you have options. Roll that number back, the ticket number, because of you're taking advantage of what property values are going for. You should cut that in half, if not 2/3, all right? And take advantage of that, all right? Use that. You can freeze. Like the guy said, the Senate had a freeze option, and nothing happened there, all right? It didn't get passed. All right? Our president rolled back prices, all right, a few years back to a cent. I think you should roll them back to about 1978, you know, and try and live on that, all right? All right, then we got, my thing went off, so let me look here. So we got lots of expenses coming and going. If you checked out the price of rent lately, I got 4 kids. 2 of them are living with families in basements because of rent. And rent is supposedly 1% of the value of the land. All right, well, when they went from $700 rent, they could afford to $1,200, $1,400 on up. They had to move into our basement, all right? And that's husband and wife and 2 of my grandkids, all right? Then my other child, 2 of our kids are living in basements, all right? And try to see where that goes. All right, my time's up. I thank you for yours.
Hi, my name is Tony Seifert, S-E-I-F-E-R-T. I have a son that graduated from one of the high schools here in Lincoln. That was the only kid I had go through the public schools. When he was a junior, the teachers did not hold him accountable. He turned in his homework late. He almost missed graduating because of their irresponsible way of treating him and letting him extend this extension, that, you know, constantly. You need to do a better job on the LPS students. Hold them accountable. Everybody that goes to work has to be held accountable. The tax evaluation is just ridiculous. Mine went up 21% in 1 year time. I've owned the house since '99. And the only time I ever had a decrease in it was when I went in and showed the evaluation that I had from the bank evaluator, and then it dropped for all of 2 years. It was overpriced when it was before that at $115,000, and it was valued under $100,000 by the valuation after bank refinancing. To give you, for instance, my daughter moved to Oklahoma. She kept razzing me about the fact that her taxes for an entire year were under $700. I pay $2,100 a year for taxes now with this increase that you're proposing. To give you another perspective, I have a cousin that lives in Washington. I own 1 parcel of land. Last I knew, 7 of those parcels equals 1 acre, okay? They own 18 acres. Their taxes were $7,800 for a year compared to $2,100 for 1 parcel. And we're talking about 18 acres and a 6,000-foot house. Taxes here in the state of Nebraska, in Lincoln especially, we're getting taxed with wheel tax, occupation tax, the restaurant tax. I mean, it's just, you guys are out of control. This is ridiculously overinflated way of raising the taxes when you're trying to say, and I'm tired of hearing all the politicians say, oh, well, we haven't raised taxes. Yeah, you've raised the evaluation, the assessed value so high that you've raised the taxes effectively by a landslide. And that's what you're getting away with, and that's what you're hearing all night long. And you're going to keep hearing it because this is ridiculous.
Hi, my name is Jamie Kuzelka, Kuzelka. I live in Harbine, Nebraska. Drove an hour to be here. And I really didn't know what this was about because I thought I was fighting the assessment. And I thought it was just a county assessment, which it is. I kind of figured that out because I've tried to read the county website. It's ridiculously hard to understand. You can't understand anything. Nobody is helpful in anything that anybody tries to help you with. Anyway, I just want to give you a little backstory about what what my story is and actually why I'm here. My wife couldn't be here because she's doing lessons right now. We have a equine assisted learning center, and it goes to about 9 o'clock, and I don't know what time it is, but I think she's probably still doing it. But anyway, our valuation in 2022 was $84,848, and now it is $144,395. And I'm assuming it's for the Southeast Community College. So, yeah, we had some kids. We have 4 kids, and 2 of them went there. So we have used the college, which I don't know who designed that building, but it's ugly. That new one you guys just put up, it's horrible. I hate it. I think it's, whatever. I think it's a bad way to spend the money. And it looks like you can get about 10 people in there because the rooms are huge. I don't know. It seemed really stupid. But besides that, it's so frustrating for everybody here because everybody knows that, yeah, you guys are listening. And I've stood in front of I don't know how many people, and I get the same look from everybody. It's like, yeah, just shut up and hurry up and sit down. Nobody listens. I challenged our property valuation, and they came out, they looked, and they said you can have a meeting, a hearing in person or on the telephone. Well, I work. I get up at 5 and I get off at 4:30, so I can't go to the courthouse. So I did a telephone call. We had the telephone calls 50 minutes long. They were late. I was on time. Anyway, the original proposed increase was $50,000. I don't know what the exact number it went up to, but it went up another $10,000 after they reevaluated the property. They do a flyover for acreages. I don't know if you know that we own 10 acres. They do a flyover, and that's how they evaluate it. And we have structures, which if anybody can define what a structure is, I'd be more than happy to know because they couldn't define it to me, and they're taxing me on structures that, I don't know. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
My name's Kirk Myers, Kirkmyers, and I'm thankful whoever made the law to send out these pink slips should get an award. I just want to go back about 30 years, lived out in Air Park in Lincoln, and washer and dryer broke, called for maintenance, and this old guy came out, looked like he was 75 years old, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing working? I said, well, I bought a house, and I paid it off, but my taxes now are more than what my house payment was for 30 years. I thought, that's crazy. At that time, the house where we live now was around $70 a month. We bought the house, and taxes around $1,200, 2002, cents, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000. Gee, I'm going to be just like that guy, paying for you guys' salaries and pensions and all the benefits you get. Today, there's not even any private ownership anymore. If I don't pay my rent, i.e. my taxes, to the owner of that property, i.e. the county, you guys come and take it. You kick me out of my own home. That's wrong. You know, in the U.S., 110 years ago, there was no income tax, none. The 16th Amendment had to be added to the Constitution to make it legal to add the first income tax. You know how much it was? 2%. That was for federal, and that was just for the rich guys. We're way beyond that. You guys need to figure things out, because we're in a Ponzi scheme. We're the slaves and the serfs working for you guys. What percent is guaranteed for these police officers and firemen, guaranteed for their pension funds? Who knows? What's the rate? Anybody know? Any volunteers? Silence. You don't even know? Yeah, they get guaranteed rates of returns on their 401ks. Any of you guys get that? Guaranteed 8%? That was one of those line items on there. Oh, we need another 500,000 this year to shore up the pensions for the firemen. You guys are getting screwed on that deal. Excuse me, we're getting screwed on that deal. You need to go renegotiate that. Any Star Tran buses running around with 1 or 2 people? Sorry, there might be that guy with dialysis on it. Got to be some cheaper way. You guys need to figure out how to do pay cuts, how to cut health care. I got a 2006 van with 200,000 miles on it. I bet you guys' vehicles ain't doing that. My house is 50 years old, and we pay more in taxes than ever. You guys can do the same thing with your buildings. You can work with buildings that last 50 years. You don't got to build new ones. Figure it out.
That's your time, sir.
Thank you.
My name is John Jacobs, John Jacobs. I want to commend all of you folks for sitting up there and taking the brunt of everything. I know you didn't have a lot to do with this proposed budget. When I got my pink slip on the tax increase, I called the Lancaster assessor's office, and he says, we're reevaluating homes to current replacement cost. I got so excited. I went out in 2 toes and I got a 2014 Chevrolet Traverse, and I wanted a brand new one because it was at new cost and replacement cost. So that means my Traverse should have been worth $31,000. Well, it's only worth 11. Now you're telling me that my house is worth the same amount as the house built south of town or north of town with the same square footage, but that my house is the same value as those. I don't think so. I haven't made that many improvements. The spending that's been going on. A few years back, I can remember that the city spent money to put lights and pictures in an alley downtown so that people could walk to parking lots. Who did that benefit? It benefited the owners of the buildings downtown. Not the city of Lincoln, not these folks out here, not me. It didn't improve that at all. The street improvements, spending on the money on that. They told me the street was going to be replaced in front of my house. I called down to the city. I talked, I think, to a young lady, and I said, how do you go about knowing what street you're going to replace? Sweet little thing said, well, it's by the number of complaints. Have you gone out there and looked at it? No, just the number of complaints. There was nothing wrong with the street. I told her that. I said, come out and look at it, leave it alone, and fix some other streets that are bad. Well, I got a new street. I don't think that's right. There's going to be a lot of money spent in the city for the Haymarket improvements. Let the building owners down there that are going to benefit by that improvement, let them pay for it. In the schools, Southeast Community College, I understand some of your needs, and you're providing an education for blue-collar workers. We need a lot of them. I was a contractor since 1975, and I'd hate to be in business right now. The people aren't there. You can't find good carpenters, iron workers, whatever.
Sir, that's your time.
Thank you.
Jane Kinsey with Watchdogs of Lincoln Government. We regularly visit the city council meetings, and we've gone to Lincoln Public Schools. I'm telling you folks in the audience, once these people get elected, they do not listen to anything the public has to say. Vote them out. That's the only way you're going to get control of spending. the city, the county, maybe the public schools received millions of dollars from COVID that the feds poured into this community that they are not using because they want to justify what they are spending their money on. And Mr. Seinhorst just said that Lincoln has a big surplus sitting. There's also the money from the casino, and that wasn't even put in the budget. Wake up, folks. You're being scammed. Most of the people on the payroll make more than the average salary of any Lincolnite. Just go to the federal statistics and you'll see that. We went to speak against the city budget of Lincoln. They didn't have the courtesy to put it early on the agenda so that everybody got tired and left. And we were the only group, the only people who spoke against it. Is this the way your representatives are supposed to treat the public? No. It happens over and over again because they don't want to hear what we have to say. Actually, they put a limit on what we have to say, which should be tested in court as against our freedom of speech. 5 minutes isn't enough to let people have what they have to say.
That's your time, ma'am. And can you spell your name, please?
Okay, so anyway,
That's your time, ma'am.
we have 3 minutes. Vote these people out, folks. That's the way you're going to get answers.
My name is Christian Kist, Christian I appreciated what Heather Schmidt had said earlier. I wanted to finish her statement on her behalf. According to the Omaha World Herald, income decline in Nebraska is the 4th steepest in the nation at 3.6%, with Lincoln at 5.6%. The worst state for income decline was reported at 5.9%. If our city were a state, we would be next to dead last. Our income is in decline by 5.6% at a time when everything is more expensive. This is not the time to squeeze taxpayers. LPS, we have always had your back when you've respected us enough to ask for extra financial support directly on a ballot. If you're going to breach the 3% cap on income from property taxes, then at least be fair. Stop gaslighting the public and put it on the ballot. The people deserve to know the truth and to decide for themselves how much more they want to pay in taxes to our public schools and our community colleges. Are we going to face the decision makers at the LPS district office on September 25th at 6 p.m.? And on my behalf, I just wanted to say that a 22% income or a 22% increase in the value of our properties does not mean that any of us have 22% more income to be able to pay that taxes increase. That's all. Thank you.
My name's Paul McCabe, MCCABE, Lancaster County resident. Well, I appeal to you. You're right. You don't have to say anything to us. You can't answer. You won't answer any questions. But I appeal to your sense of dignity. Do you hear these people? I don't have to tell you what my taxes are. I'm not going to go there. I'm a business owner. I live in an okay home. Nothing fancy, nothing too bad. But I'm telling you, these people are up here telling you they're here for a reason. I appeal to your sense of dignity and self. I'm not Alan Greenspan, for those who are old enough to know who that is. I'm not Janet Yellen. I'm not Paul Volcker, okay? But I know this, we're not doing well economically. And for you to stand up here and tell us we have to take another tax increase is insane. It's almost, it borders on immoral. And you might say, what? Wait, it does. You know, I can give you personal testimony how yeah, we need a new tax assessor. That guy needs to go, or woman, whoever it is. It's not fair. And you guys think you sit up here and you hide behind your desk. It's not right. And I'm telling my company, we need to move. I've asked our CFO, it's time to start looking at hard numbers. And you're not going to end up like LA. That's a different problem. But you're going to end up like Detroit, where they don't have police anymore. They don't fix the street lights. We're going down that road. People are going to leave. I like Lincoln. I've lived in 2 major metropolitan cities. You guys have the highest taxes and the worst services. Pretty good, okay schools. But we don't need, you want to cut the budget? I'll tell you how to do it. It's right there. You put it up on the screen. What was it? 96% of your overhead is people? Guess what? Do less with less people. If that means you got to go from the idealistic education model of 17 kids per 1 teacher and 2 paralegals or whatever you got, go to 30. You'll cut your numbers right now. And you might say, oh, we can't do that. Do it. We are all cutting our belts. That's what needs to be done here. If a building needs to be done, I got it. I actually like Southeast Community College because I need the blue-collar workers. I was one. I was raised as one. There are no more young people. I get it. I actually think, well, maybe Southeast. But the rest of it, no. You negotiated bad deals with the police union and the fires union. That increase where they get automatic for their pension, that's insane. Shame on you. And shame on us. We voted for that. Or we didn't vote. We need to vote. I appeal to the people on TV and you. Start voting. Hold them accountable.
Hi, my name is Brenda Mae Stinson. My name is Brenda Mae Stinson, and I'm a constituent here in Lincoln, Nebraska. And there's been a lot of talk about taxes.
Ma'am, can you spell your name, please?
Brendamae, first name. Stinson, Stinson, last name. But what I am wanting to talk about is the public safety and the taxes. I don't believe that the taxes are going to go to what you all say it's going to go to, because right now, in my eyes, the police didn't protect me from being assaulted back in 2020. The mental health portion, I think, with the prison shouldn't even be a topic, because I think, me personally, I would rather spend my money on getting people help with mental health instead of sending them to prison. So why build another prison? Because if you look at the statistics, the majority of people in prison do have mental health. In the Lincoln Regional Center, they send criminals there for incompetency testing. Why can't that be done in the prison? Why do they have to take beds up from those who need the mental health services? And then the state of Nebraska comes along and says, well, we're going to send our mental health individuals out into the community because that's where all the money is. And we're going to have them help with those services. Where is the money? Because I see individuals who have severe and persistent mental health issues walking around Lincoln all over, sleeping on the streets, not using their medications because they don't know how to get their medications. Where are these services? Where's the money for that? You guys don't talk about people with mental health issues. And I have a son right now who is in prison, and he has autism and severe and persistent mental health issues, and I advocated for him to go to Lincoln Regional Center. And he can't be there because there's no room because criminals are there. You know, I don't know what to say to all of this. It's really disheartening. I just hope that you guys do the right thing when you lay your head down.
That's your time, ma'am.
I understand that. But I deserve to be heard just a little bit more. And so do all of these people here.
Thank you, ma'am. That's your time.
My name's Pat Clausen, K-L-A-U-S-E-N. I'm sure you can figure out how to spell Pat. So, one, I'd like to make a comment concerning the presentations. Specifically, this is probably more geared toward LPS. When you're making a presentation, don't put so much on a slide, because out here, it's virtually impossible to read. You've got the thing overloaded with information, and there's no time to digest it when you're presenting it. Two, when these pink slips came out, I'd really like to know why there wasn't an email address, or not an email address, but a website address put on there that we could go to directly to find out what these budgets are, to do some education ahead of time before these meetings. You folks are, you know, you drew the short straws of having the crappy job of taking the brunt of our opinions based on someone else's decision. So I feel sorry for you about that, but you are a member of the local governments. You folks, all your colleagues, your work colleagues, you have a duty to the taxpayers. The taxpayers are not your personal finance book that you can just go to when you decide you want to do something that you want, so that you can just gain extra money. A government is supposed to be about providing for the needs, not the wants. The other thing, I've been a resident of Lincoln for 40 years, owned the property for 40 years, so I have seen countless, actually 40 years of increases in reality. I understand, you know, it's all tied together, you know, taxes have to be paid in order to support the governmental system, which is supposed to provide services for the taxpayers. I don't really see a very good return on the investment that the taxpayers actually pay. The Lincoln Public Schools, you know, you try your damnedest to give kids a good education, but somebody in that organization needs to figure out how to be fiscally responsible with taxpayer dollars, because you people are out of control. You know, we as taxpayers, or maybe it's just me, but I think we deserve better. We deserve a hell of a lot better than what we've been getting from you folks. So that's all. Thank you.
My name is Harry Kellenbarger, H-A-R-R-Y-K-E-L-L-E-N-B-A-R-G-E-R. I live in Sky Ranch Acres, 1301 Beechcraft Road. Okay, the first thing that really hit me was when the assessor came out with his wonderful tax increase. My land went up 87%, went from $80,000 to $150,000. My house went up 44.6%. So my total valuation went up 56.7%. That really irritated me because I checked all my neighbors in Sky Ranch Acres and I was the winner. So I was really upset. Well, I protested it and they laughed. So that's what I'm stuck with. Well, then I get this beautiful pink slip that tells me what I'm going to be paying. And so I read on the front of it, it says, increase its property request by more than the allowable growth percentage. So that's what I came tonight to find out about. What is the allowable growth percentage? For the city of Lincoln, it's 47.9%. For Lincoln Public Schools, it's 39.5%. For Southeast Community College, it's 75.6% increase in taxes. Those three taxes alone are going to cost me another $1,800. Just those three. I'm hoping that someplace else, some people are going to hold that, look at that and say, well, wait a minute, we've got such a big evaluation change in the county. We don't need to set the value, what we're going to charge as high. All of you said, hey, we're going to do the same thing that we did before. We're not increasing the taxes, but you got one heck of a lot of income from the people that are in the county that you're going to tax. Take it away. Thank you.
Hey, my name is Gail Johnson, Johnsson, and I agree with a lot of things that have been said here before, so I'm not going to repeat them. But I guess the message I'd just like to have you take back is that our officials really need to look at needs and not just wants. We need to use more common sense, especially in the future. Just a couple examples. We just redid, I'm not sure if it's finished or not, but something like 55 million spent on our airport out here. And what did it get us? We still only have a few planes coming in every day. I mean, the problem until we can match the fares from Omaha, people are not going to use this airport. And now we're looking at a new convention center here in town. Do we need it? I don't know, it would seem like the arena and our hotels and everything, they all have meeting rooms we can use. The cost, I'm not sure of, their website is not real clear, but now we're searching for a site. You know, one of the ideas came up by the main post office down there by the arena. We'll tear it down and build our convention center now. I mean, that's just nuts to have thoughts like that. And it's thoughts like that and things we've done that I guess is what brings people out here like they have tonight. I think we just gotta think a little more clearly about how we're spending this money.
My name is Kenneth Cohn, C-O-H-N, and I don't need 3 minutes. I just need about one, because I think everything that I'm thinking has already been said tonight. You guys get to sit up there all stone-faced while we're down here struggling. Everything is up. Every time you ask me to pay more taxes, you're asking me to cut my budget. Now it's time for you to cut your budget. Find the waste, eliminate it, and live within your means like you expect us to. And for God's sakes, everybody, quit voting Democrat. That's why your taxes are going up. Thank you.
Hello, Roy
Roy Sullivan, ROYSULLIVAN. I'd ask how you're all doing tonight, but I think you guys have been dealing with a lot tonight, so I'll skip that. For the most part, I understand why my value is going up, right? So, but for the moment, you know, I can afford the increase and it makes sense, and I support taxes, blah blah blah. However, there's something a gentleman said a little while ago in a blue shirt, talked about running into another gentleman who, you know, after 30 years of paying his house, 30 years of paying for his home, you know, taxes were really high. And it got me thinking about that. And I did some math for myself as well, right? I can afford the taxes at the moment. Given that we save 16% average increase in valuation for home, I would say in about 20% paid off on mortgage, in about 10 years, right? Taxes will equivalent to about one mortgage payment. Not a big deal. 15 years, it'll be double. So it'll be worth 2 mortgage payments. In 30 years, I will be paying 1.5 times my mortgage on taxes. Now, granted, the next year, I won't have to pay the mortgage anymore, but I'll actually then be paying more on taxes. So I think I want to speak for everyone here, you all included. That is something to be cautious of, right? We all get into retirement age. Maybe we saved retirement. Maybe, you know, we've invested and we're comfortable. But there is a risk if things go south and maybe somebody had a hard time, you are going to be in a home that will then cost 1.5 times your mortgage for taxes. And on a fixed income, that's after 30 years. As that increases and your fixed income stays the same, if you're on a fixed income, there's a risk there. So that's just something I wanted to point out, and that is a concern of mine as a voter. And that's it. Thank you very much for your time.
My name is Tony Schmid, SCHMID. Appreciate the opportunity to speak for just a minute. Everybody's pretty much got everything on my list that I had down, and I would agree with a lot of it. Do you have a question? Not necessarily a question, but comment. It appears to me more and more of the school systems are running into situations where there are fewer and fewer students, and yet they take more and more money. I have a daughter that's a teacher, not necessarily in this state, but nonetheless, one of the difficulties that she's run into, not only the money thing, but so much money has been poured into administration, poor decisions, writing the teachers, not supporting teachers, taking the sides of the whiny student or parents that won't stand up, won't discipline their kids. And so I'm asking and I'm looking and I'm saying, if our public, and add to that the fact that there are a number of parents that are homeschooling now. And there's a big push, so we get some vouchers so we can send our kids to schools that aren't necessarily public schools. So I think that calls for some real soul searching in terms of the educational systems and especially the public ones. In terms of the budgets, I've seen some budgets, some of them connected with financial or educational institutions. To me, it's absolutely ludicrous to put out a budget and say, okay, I'm going to give you $100, but if you don't spend that $100, if you spend 85, I'm going to take, and you only get 85 next year. Instead of rewarding departments and people that are frugal enough to get 100, do the 85, then plan down the road and say, okay, I'm going to keep the extra 15 off here because I'm going to need it in a year or 2 years. That budgeting process, I don't know who came up with that, but it's terrible. So, finally, a couple of quotes here. One of them comes from Paul Harvey. And I think that's a problem that we see in our voters, in the political system at large. And he always said, self-government will not work without self-discipline. And if we don't discipline ourselves in the way we think and the way we spend and the way we collect, we're doomed. And last but not least, we should all remember that the first Revolutionary War got sparked by a tea tax. Thank you.
Mike Martin, M-A-R-T-I-N. I grew up in the Chicagoland area. I moved to Nebraska to go to college here, and I've loved Lincoln for 50 years. I'm retired now, and I didn't know about this meeting, but my backyard neighbor, she's 86, Diane Easley, she asked me to come to the meeting because she can't make it. And so I said, I got time, I can do this. It's been very enlightening. And it's, you know, and my valuation went up 30%, hers did too, over the past 2 years. And she's in a lot tougher spot than I am because she's a widow on a fixed income. I guess I'm on a fixed income now too, but it's a little bit better. But I did want to mention that I raised 5 children here in Nebraska, 5 Cornhuskers, and they all moved to Texas. They make good incomes. They're not adding to the Nebraska economy. And I keep getting asked, when am I moving to Texas? When are we going to move to Texas? And I can take a lot of my 401k and investments and such with me and not pay income tax down there. Property taxes are similar. But I've heard wheel taxes, I've heard motor vehicle taxes. They all say, hey, Dad, $25 for the whole year. You know, for their cars. Nebraska's exports a lot of water and people, and it's a great state to be from. And Lincoln is a nice place to live, and I've enjoyed it. But it's all about cost control, and I think what I've heard over and over tonight is the costs need to be controlled in these government systems, and I don't know how you guys do that, but you're going to keep bleeding people and exporting a lot of talent out of Nebraska if you keep this up. Thank you.
My name's Richard Rogers, R-O-G-E-R-S. I did not grow up in Nebraska. I've lived here a long time, but as I was growing up, a statement that was drilled into my head is expenses always meet income, or expenses grow to meet income. Well, the issue we have, everybody's talking taxes, but in reality, it's not the tax that's the issue. It's the appraised value that continues to go up and up and up. And in the 27 years that I've lived here, not 1 year did my appraisal value go down. It stayed the same, but it went up. I doubt that it will ever go down, and we will continue to have to pay at an inflated appraisal value forever unless that gets under control. And I know you don't control that, but it's something to think about with respect to not counting on revenue and making your budget match a budget and not go higher based upon what you would like to do. Thank you.
My name is Josh Campbell, Joshcampbell. I live at 5725 Madison Avenue. That is a 860 square foot house. Let me repeat that, 860 square feet house. That's smaller than some apartments, which has been evaluated at $167,000, roughly $32,000 more than last year. That's insanity. I'm not sure why we're raising property taxes. The city should be getting some nice tax revenue from this new fancy casino we just built, which I voted for because I thought that might help our taxes stay at bay, but guess I was wrong. I don't know how you can justify this when literally everything has increased in price due to inflation and a terrible economy. Not sure if you've gone to the grocery store lately, but it's ridiculous how expensive things are now. or how expensive gas is. You guys always talk and like to tout about how we should cut back as citizens. My wife and I already have before this tax proposal. Literally everything has gone up in price. Utilities, gas, and electric, your water bill, trash bill, you name it, and most likely it's increased. I feel bad for individuals on fixed incomes who are already cutting back to the bare minimum. The city should be ashamed of themselves to drive the nail in the head, or the nail in the coffin a little further. My wife and I, in a year and a half, plan to move to Tennessee. Why? Because we're not getting taxed to death.
Good evening. My name is Mike Wenzel. That's Wensel. I own a home here in Lincoln. I also have a business here in Lincoln as well. And a while back, we got our new assessment on our home. And of course, I looked at that and said, okay, we got to do the calculations, see how much this is going to cost us now for our taxes. And I assumed that everything was going to kind of remain the same. So I did the calculations, ran it through, and went, you know, our property assessed 25% higher, so our taxes will probably go up 25% too. So across the board. Well, did the calculations and thought, well, okay, well, we can probably swing this, but it's going to be tight. We also have a business that we pay rent, and that has a clause that we have to pay their sales tax or their property taxes as well on that property. So, you know, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm sure it went up as well in the assessments, and I'm going to end up having to pay higher taxes on that as well, all the way across the board. So I did calculations on that. Okay, well, my business is going to have to make a little bit more money. How do I do that? Well, I've got to raise prices. Yes, I don't have any choices. I can't cut anything. You know, I try to do a real good job budgeting for my business, and it's not going to, you know, it's not going to come from my costs. I can't. I have to raise my prices to increase those payments. So I thought, okay, well, we can do this. So I raised some prices. Well, I haven't gotten my tax bill for my business yet for the new year, but I will, and it's going to hurt. So I did, you know, a few months later after my taxes, found out my assessment value went up. Well, I get this, and surprise, I got to pay even more taxes. So my question was basically, if my property value goes up 25% and my taxes go up 25%, the county assessor gave you all the money you need. You don't need to get any more, not in my opinion. But if you're going to increase it even beyond that, you're hurting all of us. And, you know, I can't speak to each and every one of you. I really love all the services you provide. I love the schools, the community college, and the city of Lincoln in general. But we got to do some cutting because it's hard times for me and my business. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Karen Weston, Karenweston. I live at 3785 South 96th Road, Firth, Nebraska, which is in Gage County. So I don't need to speak with any of you. But Southeast Community College, you have all of your 15 counties or whatever it is coming to this meeting to complain about your increases. I own property in Gage County and Fillmore County. So tomorrow night I'm going to be in Fillmore County complaining. But you won't be there because in order to speak to Southeast, I had to be here tonight. Southeast Community College has raised my increases of 18%, 16%, and 12% on my properties. I'm a graduate of Southeast Community College. I liked the college. They did well for me. But I think it's just a big money grab in view of you're worried about what the state legislation is going to do to you. There's no way that you need to have such huge increases in all our evaluations. I just think it's wrong. It's taxation without our representation when you're pushing this much of an evaluation increase in our taxes. That's all I have to say.
Do we, excuse me, do we have any other individuals that haven't testified yet that would like to?
Yeah, I'm Dave Oborny, Oborny. We have property here in Lincoln. We currently live here in Lincoln over in Havelock. And we got property over by Sword. Over the last 10 years, you heard the rates going up everywhere. It's going up for us too. We're both retired. We're just getting taxed to death. Schools, yes, we need these schools. But I have a great nephew. I've attended his graduation. Sent him a card, and he couldn't read the cursive in the card. But what are they teaching in school now? I think they ought to go back to reading, writing, and arithmetic. These schools need this. The people need these schools. What they need to teach, what should be taught to these kids. That's all I have.
Any other individuals that would like to testify?
If I can speak from here.
Yeah, I think we got a mic we can bring back there to you.
Just leave your camera on there. I think I can talk loud enough that you can hear me. Can you hear? Yeah. All right. I just moved back to Nebraska August 1st. I have not even finished unpacking my boxes. The reason I moved back was because this was my home. I went all through school, and I needed to come home. I'm wondering if I made a mistake. I came back from Arizona. Yes, the taxes there are so much cheaper. The food is so much cheaper. The roadways are fantastic. The infrastructure, or whatever they call it, it is just, Lincoln is antiquated. I don't know where you're budgeting the money for your roads and your streets, but step out and look at surrounding states and see that Lincoln, I believe Lincoln's probably putting too much money toward their sports. I'm not a sports fan at all. I think education should come first, but I don't think it needs to be robbing people that are retired. I live on less than $1,000 a month. I just had to buy a place. It has whatever they HOA. I have money for milk and cat food. And I don't know what my taxes are going to be, but it sounds like, boy, did I make a mistake. Now, I know from past that there was homestead exemption. I'm going to check into that. I hope to God I qualify. I don't know. But I certainly think I shouldn't have to pay for some other kid's education and college. I didn't get to go to college. My dad was a plumber. My mother was crippled. And what? I gotta pay my kids, and I've got one kid in college, grandkid, here. But why should retired people have to pay for other kids' education?
Ma'am, that is your 3 minutes.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Last call. Otherwise, we are going to close the hearing, and we appreciate everyone coming out tonight. Thank you.